Hi guys, I hope you're all well. Today is Thursday the 11th of January 2018, and as you know from yesterday's video, it was our final full day in Uluru Ayers Rock. So it's relatively late on within the morning and we've already dropped off our luggage at the reception area, and one of the things that we did notice when we were making our way to reception is there does seem to be quite a few insects knocking about this morning, in particular a stick insect and a number of crickets. But that wasn't the only thing that surprised me this morning. Is whilst we were sitting in the reception area waiting for the coach to take us to the airport, I noticed that I had a stowaway hiding in my hand luggage, and it turned out to be a very small lizard along for the ride. Don't worry, I took my bag outside near to where the plants and bush was, and I let him loose underneath those plants. So I made sure to double check all of my hand luggage, making sure there were no more stowaways before we got on the coach. But we also got another surprise whilst we were waiting for the coach in reception, where we started to hear a musician playing his didgeridoo. After waiting 20 or 30 minutes, the coach then turned up to take us all towards Ayers Rock Airport. And after doing the normal things, checking in your luggage and hanging around the terminal for an hour or so, it was then time to start boarding the aircraft, which happened to be an older Boeing 717-200 series. I've never flown on this aircraft before, so this should be a bit of an experience, but we all know what's an experience for me generally when flying, and of course that's getting into the seats and of course trying to fit the seat belt around me. So I managed to get into the seat okay, wasn't able to put the armrest down, that was just too much of a tight squeeze. But the thing what stood out to me immediately was the fact that the seat belt, the original seat belt, fastened me no problem whatsoever. For the first time in years, I've not had to ask for an extension belt. So this was certainly a high five moment. Now we've got ourselves comfortable, there's only one thing left to do, and of course that's to sit back and relax and enjoy the takeoff, which of course I'm not going to let you go without watching, because who doesn't want to experience taking off from Ayers Rock to go towards Cairns. So just after takeoff, and just as we're starting to bank back round upon ourselves, you can see in the distance Uluru or Ayers Rock, and then just a few seconds later you can see Katajuta, and I'm obviously not going to make you experience the whole of the flight, so I'm going to give you some speeded up snippets. Now this flight lasts 2 hours 40 minutes approximately, but ultimately I'm going to give you the speeded up version of our landing into Cairns as well, so I hope you enjoy it. And once we'd landed in Cairns, it was then time to go and collect our luggage in the terminal before making our way around to where the bus and car park area is, where we had to sit around and wait 20 minutes or so for the bus to come and collect us. So it was relatively late on in the afternoon when we arrived in Cairns. We still had a long bus journey ahead of us because we also had to drop other people off at their accommodation, but we weren't staying in Cairns. We're actually travelling north along the coast towards a town called Port Douglas, and our stop was going to be the Mandalay Luxury Apartments. And once we had reached our accommodation, the sun had already set and it had already gone dark outside. So you know what that means, guys, since we're in a new destination and a whole new accommodation, it's time to give you a room tour, or on this occasion an apartment tour.
This one? This is good. This is the living room. Fridge. Okay.
So once we'd dropped our bags in the room, we were peckish, so we decided to go out and explore the local area and try and find a restaurant or pub or something that was open where we could have something to eat and drink. But because the time of the year that we arrived here, it is actually the end of the typical holiday tourist season. So most of the restaurants and bars, cafes actually close early, and because we were doing our exploring trying to find somewhere between 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the evening, all food service had pretty much finished and pointed towards the nearest late night mini supermarket, where we ended up just buying a couple of sandwiches, a packet of crisps and some drinks, which we took back to our apartment just to nibble on for the next hour or two, watching a bit of TV. So this was pretty much the whole day in a nutshell. Now, because there isn't really been much of a video of what I've shown you here, just a lot of travelling, I am therefore going to go straight into the next day, where it's now Friday the 12th of January 2018, and now we're starting our first full day in Port Douglas. So you can consider today to be very much a relaxation day by crossing the road from our apartments to the 4 Mile beach. And one of the things that stood out to me was the warning signs alerting you to the possible presence of jellyfish, in particular the deadly box jellyfish, and the possible presence of crocodiles. And crocodiles is certainly something we don't have to contend with when we're back home in the UK. So after we'd spent 30 minutes just walking along the beach, taking some photographs, we then started to do a bit more exploring of the local area and slowly started to make our way towards where the local shops are, and just having a general nosy about, pottering about, window shopping. And we continued along the street until we reached the Anzac Park and the Anzac War Memorial, and we took the opportunity to make the most of the shade because the sun was extremely hot today. So we continued to explore this area, trying our best to keep as much in the shade as possible, but we also found some very colourful seating areas where we just decided to sit back and watch the world go by. And unfortunately those seats were not in the shade, so we only spent 15-20 minutes there because we didn't want to get burnt, but we now wanted to find some refreshments, get a nice cold drink. So we continued along our walk and eventually we reached the marina, where we pretty much sat down and enjoyed nice cold drinks for the next hour or so in the shade, watching the boats coming in and out the marina. So after we'd spent a good couple of hours relaxing at the marina, we then started to make our way back towards our apartment. But we did make a quick stop off in a local supermarket to get all the goodies and food that we would need to stock up our fridge. So this is where I'm going to finish the video. As I mentioned, it was just a relaxation day, so it was just a case of exploring the local area and just getting our opportunity to wind down after the last few days of non-stop exploring around Ayers Rock, and we just needed 24 hours to ourselves before we started the next phase of excursions, which are going to keep us very busy over the next few days. So as I always do, I'm going to finish the video by looking at the past 24 hours worth of memories in the form of photographs. So whilst you're enjoying those, by all means, if you'd like to continue following us along our holiday adventure so you don't get to miss out on any future videos that I post, and you will have come to know that I've been releasing my videos on a daily basis. So therefore, I'll see you all again tomorrow.